How do you mean?
Rumors about something being dug up on the moon.
What happens when a scientific movie evolves into a complete revelation of the future? This is 25 shocking facts you haven't seen about a Space Odyssey. Dave Bowman flew through the Stargate sequence and landed in a plush regal room, complete with fancy furniture and a bed. What on earth was happening? Kubrick explained that godlike entities scooped Bowman up, put him in what was a human zoo for observation. Once they were done studying him, they transformed him into some kind of super being and sent him right back to Earth. The primates were played by a trained group of mimes and dancers in detailed costumes. They were incredibly realistic. Not only that, director Kubrick teamed up with legendary makeup artist Stuart Freeborn to bring those costumes to life. Towards the end of the film, when Dave Bowman plunges into the Stargate, the gateway was hit with minutes of blinding lights and surreal visuals. Audiences had never witnessed anything like it. Douglas Trumbull invented a technique called slit-scan photography. Space Odyssey had all those iconic scenes where featured numerous iconic X completely defy gravity. For X seemingly defy hostess walking up the walls or astronaut Frank Poole jogging right across the ceiling, Kubrick actually hired an airplane manufacturer, Vickers Armstrong, to custom build a 36-foot-tall centrifuge for the zero-G scenes. The massive contraption cost a cool $750,000 back then. The film broke new grounds by completely flipping the script on how a story was supposed to be told. The film was divided into 4 distinct segments, 3 of which were titled The Dawn of Man, The Jupiter Mission, and Beyond the Infinite. The overall structure totally ignored the classic 3-act formula. Stanley Kubrick told Roger Karras, the publicist for the previous film, about his project at a launch meeting in February 1964, a movie about extraterrestrial life. Karras suggested his fellow writer, Arthur C. Clarke. Days later, Clarke shot back a telegram that read, "Frightfully interested in working with Enfant Terrible." Soon after, the two were working together to expand Clarke's short story. Nearly all of the movie was filmed inside England's Shepperton and MGM British studios. To pull off those amazing space scenes, they had to construct colossal sets. There was only one exterior shot filmed outside the studio, the famous scene where the ape, Moonwatcher, smashes the bones and tosses the weapon into the air. All of the visuals of the movie were created through painstaking efforts. They were made way before the era when you could just fire up a computer and render whatever popped into your head. Special effects artist Douglas Trumbull was the genius behind it. The set wasn't exactly a playground, especially for the stuntman Bill Weston. Doing the spacewalk scenes wasn't particularly easy with director Stanley Kubrick. Kubrick wouldn't let Weston punch tiny holes in the back of his space helmet. While performing complicated maneuvers high up for the camera, Weston passed out from carbon dioxide poisoning. When he finally recovered, he went after the director. Some of the most iconic elements in 2001 were actually decided during production. Take the mysterious black monolith. It didn't start off as a black slab at all. The team initially wanted a clear plexiglass tetrahedron, a 3-sided pyramid. They switched it to the monolith shape simply because plexiglass cools better that way. It was production designer Tony Masters who suggested the featureless opaque black one we know today, and Kubrick finally signed off on it. For the film's Dawn of Man sequence, Stanley Kubrick sent his assistant Andrew Birkin to scout locations in Southwest Africa, now Namibia. Birkin illegally cut down dozens of the cocoa-booms trees under the cover of darkness, sending a ton of money to haul these stolen trees across the desert. Leading to a total waste of effort and expense, the real trees looked too small to make an impact. In the end, Kubrick didn't use the trees. When Space Odyssey premiered in Washington, D.C. and New York City in April 1968, the initial reaction was brutally negative. That same screening had 241 recorded walkouts, and the city's top film critics were nearly unanimous in publishing scathing reviews. However, young audiences immediately started flocking to see the movie. Its fortunes quickly reversed, turning a critical flop into a commercial hit. Since CGI wasn't even a glimmer in anyone's eye when Space Odyssey was made, how did they pull off that classic shot of the pen smoothly drifting in midair? The secret weapon wasn't some futuristic million-dollar piece of equipment, it was a brand new product at the time, double-sided tape. The sets were just as detailed and intricate as they looked. Stanley Kubrick was notorious for frequently changing his mind on the spot. Because of this, he needed sets that were flexible enough to let him move the action to any unexpected spot he chose. This resulted in massive, expensive, and minutely detailed production designs. The special effects for Space Odyssey were beyond revolutionary. They took over 18 months to complete and cost a stunning $6.5 million, which was roughly 2/3 of the film's entire budget. During the making of 2001: A Space Odyssey, about half the movie required complex lab work, with each individual shot taking an average of 10 steps to finish. For one scene, they had to invent a new camera, since computer-generated graphics didn't exist when Stanley Kubrick made this movie. According to the visual effects supervisor, Trumbull, for the final psychedelic sequence where Dave Bowman seems to hurtle into another dimension, they were forced to invent a new type of camera system just to pull it off. Stanley Kubrick and Arthur C. Clarke were determined to make 2001 as scientifically authentic as possible, even though they were predicting technology 30+ years into the future. Clarke was completely confident in their vision. His confidence in future space exploration was clearly boundless. 2001: A Space Odyssey was legendary for those majestic, incredibly realistic shots of spaceships drifting through the cosmos. To achieve this level of detail and realism, the effects team developed a groundbreaking technique called motion control. This pioneering use of motion control didn't just transform 2001, it changed Hollywood. For leading the groundbreaking visual effects in the movie, Stanley Kubrick won the Oscar Award for Best Special Visual Effects. Even though 4 other pioneers deserved the award, the Academy rules only allowed one name to be submitted for that specific award. Kubrick's controversial win paved the way for a more fair system for special effects artists in Hollywood. Stanley Kubrick was aiming for a totally realistic future. This attention to detail was why he saw real-world brands subtly integrated. Hamilton provided the watches the astronauts wore. Vogue designed futuristic clothing. IBM was the name behind the advanced computer systems. Stanley Kubrick wanted the costume design to look grounded and totally believable. To ensure this level of quality, he hired the famous Savile Row designer, Hardy Amies. He wanted future fashion to feel just as high-end and detailed as the most respected clothing of the era. Another key technology used to create the prehistoric world in the Dawn of Man sequence: front projection. The team used it to create an incredible illusion of depth and reality. This technique proved so effective that it became a major tool in Hollywood. The most recognizable moment is the film's match cut, where Kubrick effortlessly transitions from the Dawn of Man sequence to deep space. This transition created a powerful message, from the first weapon ever created, the bone used by the ape, directly to the ultimate weapon, the orbiting bomb, highlighting the entire history of human violence. During the early stages of making the film, Kubrick and Clarke's first official working title was Project Space, which appeared in their very first outline. They went through several temporary names, including Universe, Tunnel to the Stars, and Journey Beyond the Stars. However, 2 months later, Kubrick made the final choice: 2001: A Space Odyssey. Stanley Kubrick was worried that after all his work, actual extraterrestrials would be discovered right before his expensive movie hit theaters. If that happened, the film would be instantly outdated, so he opted for an insurance, to which Lloyd's declined the policy. Share your thoughts in the comment section. Thank you for watching.